Sometimes we can offer a cure, sometimes only a salve, sometimes not even that. But whatever we can offer, our interventions and the risks and sacrifices they entail are justified only if they serve the larger aims of a person's life. When we forget that, the suffering we inflict can be barbaric. When we remember it, the good we do can be breathtaking. Hello and welcome back to Searching the Archives. Today we're going to be reviewing a book entitled Being Mortal by Dr. Atul Gawande. So I was gifted this book in a strange turn of events, and if you're out there and you're watching, thank you for the book and for the recommendation. I really appreciate it. This is a really deep and somber book. It's written by a Harvard medical professor named Dr. Atul Gawande, and he basically takes us on an emotional tour, a handheld tour of the aging process, from surgery to medical treatments to nursing homes and hospice care. Dr. Gawande sheds light on the many failings and trouble spots in our medical system. It's not an attack on the medical system, but it's a serious and sober assessment of its shortcomings. Basically, throughout human history, the aging process looked like this graph. Things were going along fine until they weren't. The current process looks a lot more like this, with hills and valleys, and each hill never returning to the former height of the previous. Death remains a mysterious and foreboding future event somewhere in the near future. This is also happening at a much greater scale. It used to be that the strata of society was shaped like a pyramid, with the youth making up the bulk of the base of the pyramid and the elderly taking up a smaller portion at the top of the triangle. Nowadays, at least in the Western world, it is often more shaped like a square, with the same amount of people in the youth as in the elderly categories. Dr. Gawande states the medical system does a great job at fixing the material problem in front of them, but often misses the human being and the problems of the soul at the end of life. This is not a clinical assessment at arm's length. This is a very personal book where you get to meet a variety of people, all at different stages of life, all dealing with the grief of upcoming death. The hard questions start coming faster and faster. People who had never thought about death are being asked questions about, what am I going to do? Am I going to live the last 6 months of my life in relative pain? Or do I take this experimental treatment, which might extend my life 9 to 12 months, but come at a great cost? And I don't mean financial cost. I mean the cost of your time, the last remaining moments of your life. You might spend 6 months in relative pain, or take those experimental drugs and wind up with nausea, with vomiting, sleep deprivation, or tiredness. These different paradoxes which end up actually stealing those very precious moments at the end of your life, surrounded by friends and family. And oftentimes, these experimental drugs aren't even guaranteed to work. So you're making a decision in the dark, nothing is clear, and everything has a very significant trade-off. I do have one critique of the book, and it's that after spending hundreds of pages explaining how the medical system can fail us and inflict deep gouges on the end of our lives, the author then expresses very lightly political support for euthanasia or medically assisted suicide. I just don't know why he did this. It doesn't really make logical sense to me. And even he says, this is probably not a good idea. So I just don't know why it was included in the book. The main takeaway I got from reading this story was the sense of purpose and its great importance in the life of a human being. One touching story involves an aging couple named Felix and Bella. And Felix derives a great sense of self-worth and purpose and the will to go on by taking care of his aging wife, who's blind and half deaf. At one point, Dr. Gawande sits down with them to dinner and observes how Felix meticulously explains to Bella where her food is on her plate by using the hands of a clock. It's just stories like this, they're just so touching and they bring you so near to these people who you meet. Now I ask you, the viewer, the hard question. What if you don't have a Bella? What if you don't have a spouse to take care of and you can't find a purpose in your sufferings? Is all lost? One of the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism states that life is suffering. And in Christianity, God becomes man. He becomes one of us and takes on that suffering that we experience. For a while there was this false notion, the prosperity gospel, that basically God loves you to the degree that you have nice things, that you have a nice house, a great family, a perfect life. But this is not the ancient faith. In Colossians, St. Paul writes, I rejoice in my sufferings for your sake, and in my flesh I am filling up what is lacking in the afflictions of Christ on behalf of his body, which is the church. A lot of Christians have never seen this verse before. Properly understood, there is no lacking in the sufferings of Christ in himself as head, but many sufferings are still wanting or are still to come in his body, the church, and his members, the faithful. Catholic theology teaches us about redemptive suffering, that there's nothing we can add to the sacrifice of Christ. We can't work our way to heaven. However, amidst the sufferings around us, we can derive a sense of purpose and offer back a small token of gratitude to Jesus, who chose to actively suffer for us and suffered very greatly. To any of my viewers who are suffering in body, mind, or spirit, I want to read a short excerpt from I Believe in Love. Oh, if one could only see the very special look of tenderness which Jesus gives the poor and suffering. They have the greatest power to touch his heart and to obtain the graces they desire. Tell this to the sick. It will always do them great good. Tell them, Jesus looks at you with more love than the others because you suffer. Offer your sickness to save souls. He will listen to you because you are nailed to your bed, a little as he was on his cross. He will listen to you because he is moved with compassion for you. Thank you for watching. Please check out this book. It's called Being Mortal by Dr. Atul Gawande. Thank you.